Yeah, pay attention. It's snippet time. Hello, and welcome to Sober Living Snippets, where we live alcohol free so we can heal our relationships, feel youthful again, and ditch regret, shame, and all that other nonsense. I'm Becca, and I have a snippet for you. We are really, really cruising this week. Why? Because we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel of this year. And that means we need to step up. We need to step up and make some radical advances before the end of the year, which is exactly the opposite of what everybody else is doing, but not you. You're a snippet lover, and the snippet lovers not only grow, but we grow very different from other people. Others are winding down, eating like little pigs, drinking their faces off, and hoping that it'll all just end somehow without disaster. Okay, that was a little bit rude, but what can I say? Honestly, that's not what we're doing. What we're doing is we're winding up so we can end this year in a blaze of glory. Okay, so today I'm going to talk to you about the third C in Prof. Becca's radical transformation method, which contains 4 radical C's. Yesterday we talked about radically centering. That's taking care of our emotions. The day before that, we talked about radically connecting. That's making sure we're not alone. And today, I'm going to talk to you about radical clearing. What is radical clearing? Listen, if we're dragging garbage around from the past, holding on to resentments, despising ourselves, not willing to forgive ourselves or others, if we have anything from the past, even yesterday, that we're dragging around, it's going to make our sober life miserable. And you know what? This really isn't just for sober living, is it? Any human on earth would benefit by looking at themselves, taking the time, having enough self-love to do the self-care, to be guided through a cleanup process so that we can release the negativity from our past. We all have little memories floating around in the past, and they bring up emotions, and these emotions are often negative. And we have regrets, and we have resentments, and we have shames. We must clean this up. We really must. And this is what I call radical clearing, and no recovery is complete without it. We've got to drop the baggage that's keeping us stuck. And we do it by transforming shame into actual strength. We let go of the stories that are no longer serving us, practice fierce self-forgiveness. By making peace with our past on our own terms, we clear a path for what's possible. One of the most powerful things we can do is reframe, is look at our lives from a different perspective. This seems so simple. It's kind of like a no-brainer, but it's not that easy to do. My most profound breakthroughs came when I was writing my memoir. And you know, I started writing my story, had no intention to turn it into a book. I was writing therapeutically. I wanted to revisit the stories from my past that I was absolutely determined never to think about again, right? So my strategy up until I was 52 was don't think about it. Don't allow yourself to think about it. Just pretend it never happened. And whatever you do, don't allow emotion to come up about it. I mean, I was completely closed off about all of it. I didn't allow myself to feel emotion, and I didn't allow myself to think about the most difficult episodes of my life. And of course, they want to come up, and I tried to drink them away. Just, I had a couple of counselors, and a few times I would release some of these stories with counselors, but it never got me anywhere. I just sort of told the story, and the counselor kind of listened, and that was it. I'd walked away going, I wonder why I bothered doing that. All it did was make me feel horrible because I had to revisit a story that I was trying to forget. Then, after I was sober about a year, I started writing, and I didn't just write randomly. I thought to myself, okay, what about this episode? So there was an episode from my early childhood that just kept popping up, but I kept it really vague. It was just that moment in time, but I didn't look at the whole story. I didn't look at the events leading up to it and really how I felt in that moment. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to write the whole story, everything I can remember about it. So I started writing it in my journal, and I remembered things that I had forgotten. And at the end of it, I ended up feeling a deep sense of compassion for both myself and my mother, who had played a big role in that story, right? And so I saw this episode in my life from her point of view. She was a 32-year-old single mother with 3 children who was addicted to Valium. I saw the episode from her point of view, why she was unable to comfort me and be compassionate to the 7-year-old me. And I saw that it wasn't my fault. I saw all these things in that story that just opened up my heart to my 32-year-old mother and my 7-year-old self. And as a 53-year-old, I could comfort both of them in my imagination. I could go back and comfort the 7-year-old Becca. I could comfort my 32-year-old mother, who was just as lost could be. She never healed. And it completely changed that episode in my life. And it never came back to me again in the same emotional impact. And then I did it with another episode in my life and another episode in my life. And I ended up doing 13 different scenes from my life that had been haunting me. None of this was planned. I didn't know there were 13 scenes. I also didn't know that I was going to have these 13 stories that I would later turn into a memoir and end up publishing out into the world. That was just the second half of the story. The most important part here was how I was able to take all of these incredibly painful moments in my life and completely free myself from them. Now, this is not a strategy you want to try and do alone. I wasn't doing it alone. I never would have figured any of that out by myself. So this is the kind of radical clearing we really want to do because it completely sets you free. Ever since doing this work, the whole thing took about a year. I have a completely different feeling about my whole entire past. So some sort of radical clearing of the past really needs to be done if we're going to have true and authentic recovery. This must be done, gals. It must be done. How? Well, you want to be guided through it. It's not something you want to try and do by yourself. You want to be guided through it, and that, of course, takes you back to the first C, radically connecting, making sure you're not alone. If you want details on how to do the radical clearing, how to do radical connection, how to do radical centering. And the fourth C is radical creation. I'm going to talk to you about it on Monday. This is really how we create our new life once we've cleared up the past. How do we look towards the future? It's a very exciting phase of recovery. We get to do things like time capsules. We get to do things like radically dreaming. That's amazing. That's fun. So don't forget, opportunities abound right now to get the help you want. Today is the last day of my crazy, insane Black Friday offer, where I'm literally giving away 5 days of coaching with me. My calendar is now officially full for the next 2 weeks, but if you sign up before tomorrow, you will get a spot. You might have to wait a little while to get in, but I will give you a spot because that was what I promised. So go to the show notes from any of the episodes from this week. That's November 25th to 29th, and you will find a link to a page with all the information, and all you have to do is stick your name and a couple of pieces of information in there, and together we'll get you started on Prof. Becca's radical transformation method using the 4 radical C's. Holy cow, what a week it's been. Listen, if I've done nothing else this week, what I wanted to do is inspire you to rev it up for the rest of this year instead of allowing the year to die in a pathetic little fizzle. That was what I wanted to do this week. I'm revved up. Why? Because I'm meeting so many of you. So many of you are stepping up in courage. I know it's hard. You're being brave, courageous. You're clicking that link. You're giving me your name and your email and your phone number, and I'm getting a hold of you, and together we're meeting up, and I'm hearing your story, and I'm helping you, and it's costing you nothing. So many of you are taking me up on that, and I'm so incredibly proud of each and every one of you for doing that. I know it's hard, even though it's free, even though you've heard my voice so many times. I'm still somebody you haven't met. I know it's hard to talk about the difficulties. I know it's hard to meet with somebody and say, oh my God, here's what's happening in my life. I know it's hard, but you'll never, never, never get the change you want unless you take a little bit of uncomfortable action. And oh my God, so many of you are that I'm overwhelmed with love for each of you. And I know that together we can finish this year off in absolute radical transformation. Thanks for grabbing your snippet. Thanks for popping in. Be sure to come back tomorrow so we can keep your head on straight. Sending you buckets of love.